Yeah, sorry. I'm extremely sorry for the glitch which caused just now.
Yeah. Let's go ahead
Yeah,
then.
yeah. So, well, let's start with the basic question. What does union budget really means, and how critical it is for any country to um, prepare and form a budget before starting with any year.
Fine. See, in very simple words, if I have to put budget, it is like how even our mother prepares a budget for the family. In the similar fashion, the government has to prepare the budget for the country. Basically, the budget is an estimate of how the government would be spending in the coming year and from what sources it will be able to manage those funds which it is proposing to spend on different fronts. So the different fronts would be firstly for running the government expenditure. So running the government per se is the first requirement. And then beyond that, government has various schemes and projects for the development of the country, for strengthening the infrastructure, for strengthening the defense sector. So for all these, the government has certain outlays. Outlays means certain amount which it allocates towards all these sectors or towards all these areas. So that is a projection of the coming year's government's receipt and expenses. Now, India follows a federal structure. Now, what do we mean by federal structure? Let me explain. In India, the power is distributed between the center and the state both. This is since 1947 when we got free. We normally say that India got free. To be very technically correct, there was no India on 15th August 1947. So when you say India got free, it is technically incorrect because there was no India. We were 564 princely states which got free. And before we were free, all our freedom fighters had agreed that now we will come together so that nobody else can come and rule us or divide and rule us. So that is why we decided to come together. But when we decided to come together, all these princely states and their rajas and their rulers at that time said that we cannot give all our power to one person who will be sitting at the center. So that time, the federal structure was drafted, which means that the power would be divided between the center and the state. And then on 26 January 1950, when the constitution was passed, when it came into existence, the constitution distributed this power between the center and the state. Now, both the governments at the center and the state have its own set of responsibilities, which is divided as per the constitution under the federal structure. And then both have to meet their responsibilities by arranging funds for the same. So both the governments at the center and at the state level prepare their budgets. What we normally all are keen and interested in is the union budget. That is the one prepared at the center.
Okay. So I'm sure our audience must have gained history as well as the real meaning of preparing the budget. What does union budget really means is, and so it is really critical for every country to form a budget to understand
Yeah,
to what extent does our revenue and expenditure stands at the end of the year. So
correct.
yeah, going forward, in this budget or since past 2 to 3 budgets, we have been hearing this word called fiscal deficit or deficit budget. So what does it really means when a budget is called to be a deficit budget, or and why is it important for a developing country to prepare a deficit budget, or why a budget can't be surplus instead of a deficit?
Firstly, Prachi, see, no country would like to prepare a budget which is a deficit budget.
Deficit.
It is simply
Yeah.
that, like how at the end of the year, when you prepare your trading P&L account of the business, maybe it may result into a loss, right? In the
Right.
similar fashion, when we prepare the budget, since, as you rightly use a very appropriate word, since we are a developing country, definitely we would be having lot of outlay towards developing the country, which is in the form of strengthening our core areas, strengthening our infrastructure. So because of that, initial years of any developing country has lot of capital or long-term expenses, which is normally huge, which is into crores, lakhs of crores of rupees. And the revenue which a developing country would get from various sources, majorly which is taxation, would obviously will be lesser than the expenditure which it is proposing. So that is why the difference between the revenue and expenditure is called as a deficit. And when the budget is showing as a deficit, we call it as a deficit budget, which is not something very bad or wrong, because even developed countries have deficit budgets. It is very important as to what is the proportion of this deficit in terms to our GDP. So every time whenever you see a budget and whenever the government comes out with the figures, they always are keen on highlighting this, that how much is the ratio of deficit to our total GDP. And lesser is this ratio, the better it is, because that is what we are showing, that slowly we are moving towards the stage of self-sufficiency, whereby maybe we may not require to take up loans to meet our budget expenditures.
Right. So I guess there is one key point noting here is that deficit budget is percentage of a GDP, and it should be more lower. The lower, the better it is. So I hope audience must have taken notes and the pen as well along with them. Okay. So the next question is since there is the whole world is saying seeing optimistically towards India. India has been globally declared as the fifth largest economy, and it is the first largest democratic country as well. And the world is expecting greatly from India. So, do you really think that this year's budget was optimistically made, and it would support or maybe complement towards India's India to develop economically and in overall terms? Will it provide India a platform globally?
Fine. Answering two, three aspects in this question. So you said that whether this budget is you use the word what? Developmental budget, right?
Yeah, economically, will it support or complement the economic development of India?
Perfect. Now, see, importantly, if we see the last, I think, 8 budgets of the present Modi government, all of them have been a development oriented budget. If you see, this was, if I'm not wrong, this is the first budget in last 8 9 years of Modi rule, where you have seen for the first time any benefit given in taxation, that is, the taxation has been reduced for individuals. I'm sure you may be taking up this question at some point of time. So I'm not right now deliberating on the individual taxation part. But what I want to emphasize is, see, generally as a layman, as a common man, whenever we look at budget, we are always keen only on one thing, as to what is the benefit the budget is giving me. So we are always keen on finding out whether any tax rate has been reduced or whether things are made cheaper. But if you observe the Modi government's budget of past 7 8 years, since the time it is in rule, you will find that none of these budgets have ever given any type of benefits as such, but it has always focused more on increasing the capital expenditure on various fronts. Especially initially, it was, even today, it is on developing your infrastructure. Like even the last budget, if you see, it was named as the Gati Shakti plan, where the government focus on developing infrastructure. Now, we always use this word developing infrastructure, but many times I don't know whether everybody understands the meaning of developing infrastructure. To put it more precisely, see, developing infrastructure means simply connecting the length and breadth of the country through various means. Also ensuring that when goods are transported from one part of the country to other, they are transported in an easy, in a smoother and a faster manner. So which involves a strong network of roadways, railways, airways, waterways. It also involves a very robust network of warehouses, because the goods may need to be stored at different places. Also, if you talk about perishable goods, you talk about agricultural goods, they would require special handling and special storage measures. So if you want that the country is sound in terms of its infrastructure, the first thing that has to be developed is the infrastructure of the entire transport, which is also called as a logistics. So if you see all the previous budgets, including this one, even though this was the first budget, according to my understanding, which gave more benefit on personal taxation front, but alongside this is a very capital, I'll say not capital, I'll use the word developmental budget, because if you see the outlay, the government has increased the outlay on all these infrastructure areas. And also in this budget, they have come up with a new concept of Saptarishi. Now, what is this? Basically, they are saying that we want an overall inclusive development of the country. When we say inclusive development, what it means development on all fronts. And most importantly, the best part which I like about all the previous budgets, especially this one, is that the government is not preparing the budget with vision of 1 or 2 years in their forecasting. If you see, certain measures are such that the government has made a plan up to 2070, till the time when maybe you or me may not even exist on this earth. So what is the best part I like about this budget? It is very futuristic. Like when it comes to carbon emissions, when it comes to lowering your footprint, they have plans which are targeting for 2030. They have plans which are targeting for 2050 and also 2070. So this itself shows how futuristic the government's vision is when they are drafting the budget. And also, interestingly, if you observe, this is the first budget of the Amrit Kal. I'm sure you all would have heard this terminology in the budget. See, what is Amrit Kal? By chance, you know this, Prachi? What is Amrit Kal?
Not really, but Amrit Kal, I guess Modi, our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, emphasized it on the change which India is witnessing right now. So that is what he is naming it as an Amrit Kal. That is my understanding. I don't really
Yeah.
know the main motive behind it.
See, you are correct. Basically, the idea is Amrit Kal. If I have to put it in English, it is the golden era. Like once we were said that India is the golden bird, right? Golden bird of the world. It is one of the most prosperous country. Now, what Modi government is focusing on is they are trying to bring back that golden period. So they have named this particular period, which will be culminating up to 2047. That will be completing our 100 years of independence. This period they are terming as the Amrit Kal, because according to them, whatever policies they made in the first 7 or 8 years of the governance, since Modi government is in place since 2014, they have made such plans and that have been implemented that now slowly and steadily India is moving towards the actual developmental and the growth stage, where actually you can also see so much of road construction done. Now we have just, I'm sure everybody here would be knowing that Nashik is now going to experience two major highways connecting Nashik, like the Nagpur Mumbai highway, and it is going to pass through Nashik. Then there is a highway connecting Chennai and Surat that is also touching Nashik. So this is a small example. Day before yesterday, Honorable Prime Minister also flagged off the Vande Bharat Express from Mumbai to Nashik, which will be covering the distance in a very short period. And very soon it will be Pune Nashik. For the first time, will be having a good train connectivity. Now, see, all these things are a part of this Amrit Kal. So we all are going to be the beneficiaries of this Amrit Kal. So answering your question that whether the budget is focusing on development, yes. And as I said, it is having a vision up to 2070. So that itself so shows how futuristic and development and growth oriented the budget is.
Surely, I guess now more optimistically we will see towards the development and the future of India for sure. Moving as following your question, following your answer. So as you said that there has been this capex investment, huge capex investment in this budget, and the government is focusing on infrastructural development, and there is this capex as in the capital expenditure towards the logistics and the road construction, sports. So as an audience or as a common parlance, in a common parlance, what does the capital expenditure in infrastructure helps in how does it helps in economic development? So as an if government expenses in the capital expenditure, like building the hospitals or the bridges or the roads, how does it helps economy to grow?
See, this is what I, in fact, just touched upon in my previous answer, that when we say infrastructure development, it means lot many things. Like, as I said, first is the logistics sector. Now, answering your question, how it helps the country grow. I'll give you some very basic example, which I'm sure many of the audience who may not be very well versed with the terminologies will also understand. So I'll use very basic terms or basic examples. See, few years back, when we needed to go to Mumbai, it used to take us 5 hours. Now, with this Vande Bharat train and with this new particular coming up. Just a minute, please. Yeah, sorry. So now if it takes 2.5 hours for us to reach, please understand how it is going to help the development. I'll get more productive time to work. If let us say I'm going to Mumbai for some work, and if I can reach there in 2.5 hours, definitely my total traveling time in a day would be saved. Like many people, you would also be knowing, go to Mumbai every day by Panchvati and come back by Panchvati. But the time that they are consuming to travel is minimum 8 hours. If this is reduced to 4 or 5 hours, the productive time of the people increases. One. Second, similarly, when the transportation time is reduced, like this Nagpur to Mumbai, this highway, when it will connect Nagpur to Mumbai in 10 hours, reducing thereby the total transportation by half, two major things would happen. One, the goods would reach faster, so more transport could be done in the same time, means the same truck and the same driver can do the movement twice. So more movement of goods means more fast running of the economy. See how economy works: raw material converted into finished goods reaches the consumer, consumer consumes it, places next demand. Now, if this cycle is fastened, so automatically in the same time, you will be able to produce and sell more. So this is how this will happen. This is how it will improve or it will develop the country. One. Second, when the infrastructure develops or when the government is spending more on infrastructure, please understand the government is creating lot of employment opportunities. Like when we say that the capital expenditure is increased, how it helps the country grow? One, it is creating an asset. Like in these forms, we are creating new assets which will definitely reap benefits in future. One. Second, to create these benefits, to construct these roads, to start these railways, the government is spending more. So there are more people whose pocket this money will go into. Now, once money comes to your pocket, you will spend more. You will spend more by consuming various types of goods and services, by doing purchasing various items of comfort, by going for travel. So your money transfers to their pocket. They will spend on other things. This is how. See, understand one thing, Prachi. At any given point of time, like in this particular year, the total currency in the market remains constant,
Right.
whatever the government has printed and floated in the market. But still, with the same currency, we can achieve 6% growth rate or we can achieve 9% growth rate. What is the difference between 6 and 9% with the same quantum of currency? It is the speed at which the currency circulates. You earn, you spend,
Right.
you earn, you spend. So the more
Right.
this fastens up, the more is the pace of development of the country and obviously the people of the country. Please.
Right. The this means that capital expenditure has its dividend on a cumulative basis in the going forward in each year. It is really important for any country to expense its revenue on the capital infrastructural development, which will create eventually employment opportunities, as well as the it will increase the purchasing power of the citizens of the country. So yeah, it is critical for the country to expense on the capital side more. Going forward, I'm sure that most of the people might in our audience might be the investors, or some might be in the stock market, or at least they might be tracking the stock market movement. So they might be interested in knowing what sector might the budget might really help in eventually boost, or are expected to boost in, because of the union budget as proposed in financial year, as proposed for this financial year.
Sorry. So exactly your question is what? Means basically what you mean to ask in this?
What sectors are we should expect to grow because of the budget, because of the proposition of the budget, in the budget, which sectors have been more focused on?
Great. See, if I have to list down the sectors, the biggest thrust which I am seeing again is on the infrastructure, and this time it is more on the railways. Similarly, there is also thrust on the financial sector. Now, this is also a part of infrastructure, like all your banks and the financial system. See, you want to do a business. Now, the startup is the new bus for this current generation. Now, just let me tell you, Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Finance Minister has named our present generation as the Amrit Pidi. So we are in the Amrit
Right.
Kal, and our generation is the Amrit Pidi. So PD means the generation, right? So we are the one who are going to be benefited a lot by this particular developmental points. So coming back to your point, in infrastructure, even the financial sector plays an important role. So tomorrow, if you want to start up something new, the first thing that you need is finance. If you don't get finance, your business will not take off. So the government in its development has also targeted the financial sector, whereby in banking sector or in credit cooperative banks, they are infusing a lot of funds. They are coming up with a lot of beneficial schemes, which will help, especially the MSME and the startups, to get more funds, to get easy funds. Like for even startups, they have reduced the rate of interest. So this will give a boost because you will be able to get the funds at a very lucrative rate. You will be able to, government will be credit guaranteeing your loan. So even a naive person who is not having any strong financial background will get the finances. And obviously, this will help these persons to start up the business. So the sectors which are given thrust are financial sector, obviously infrastructure. In transportation, it is more the railways. And most interestingly, what I liked besides all this generic sector is tourism. For the first time, I'm seeing that a specific and a huge amount of outlay is given to the tourism sector. Government, if I'm not wrong, in the budget speech, what I remember, they are going to identify 50 destinations which they will be developing to provide end-to-end everything. So you will have easy accessibility to these destinations. When you go there, you will have world class facilities, because they want to develop the tourism not only for people of India visiting there, but even for international tourists. So to that level, you will get all the facilities, the stay facility, the food, and the cleanliness given in this budget is your tourism sector. Besides that, manufacturing sector is another big area which is given trust. Further, now the government is focusing on the this is nascent stage. It will take time for India to get into the green energy recognition, but government is now spending more on this particular sector, whereby more thrust would be given on use of renewable fuels sources. Another important area is agriculture. In agriculture, they have come up with the concept that again we are going back to our olden days. Let me inform you, Prachi, India never, I repeat my words, India never was a wheat producing or consuming country. This is the US who has made us so. Prior to that, India was focusing more on those grains which are actually good for health, which is in the form of jawar, bajra, maize, etc. And because of certain US policies during a particular period when we were going through a bad phase, so at that time, we were, because of the US policies where they were wheat producing countries, so they inculcated that culture in India. And from that day, or from that particular period, because of those policies, we have started consuming wheat more. Now, in fact, we have gone to a lower level, that is maida, that is a different thing. But the point is, India was never a wheat producing or consuming country. So now this budget is giving a special recognition to millet production. And they want that India should rise in millet production. So they are giving a lot of thrust on the development of the millet production in India. So that is again a very interesting thing which I found in this budget. Yes.
Yeah, so since the government has proposed a millet, the boost in a millet production, we can see that government has as well focused on agricultural sector as well. It has not completely neglected the agricultural sector, and it is providing most of the incentives to agriculture as well as horticulture or the fishing the fisheries in India which exist. So,
See,
yeah,
in
government
fact,
is
even the health sector has been given a lot of boost. Education, like the government has come up with the PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0, where it is going to launch a 3 years plan for providing training to youth. Also, it is coming up with 3 centers of excellence, which will be set up in top education institution, and it will set up, if I'm not wrong, some 30 skill international training centers to provide skills which will help the youth to get even the job opportunities outside India. Even in technology sector, it is going to invest a lot so that India becomes a master in AI. So that is a new, uh, I'll say the new term coined by Honorable Prime Minister, that we should also develop AI and we should also use AI for the development of India. Also in the gem sector, the government has laid a lot of emphasis whereby it wants to develop a new concept. I don't know how much of you all have heard about this. It is LGD. LGD is, you can in simple words says, it is a laboratory grown diamonds. Now see, presently we get diamonds which are extracted from mines and then which are polished and cut in a particular manner, but then they are very costly. Now we are developing that science where through this LGD seeds, diamonds would be grown in the laboratory and they would be equally precious, or equally they would be having the same finishing as you have with the regular diamonds. So this is something very interesting. Yes.
Yeah. I muted myself because there is a background noise at my
No
place.
problem. No
Sorry for
problem.
that commotion. Yeah. So surely we understood that there is as well government is trying to set up a digital court as well. Something three-folded digital court. Could you elaborate on that as well?
Sorry, what is that? Three?
The digital court. The government has proposed this digital court as well, that wherein the online arbitrational process will be settled online, and then out of the court will be, it will be more easy, and it will reduce the turnaround time which these days it takes, because there is this slogan in India, tarik pe tarik, tarik pe tarik. It is hoped that it will get reduced. So
Correct.
could you elaborate on that?
See, interestingly, since if I'm not wrong, since past 4 years, government is emphasizing on making the litigation faceless. You will see many of the amendments in the income tax law relating to this. We call it as the faceless assessment. What is this faceless, or what in your terminology, digital what courts, right?
Yeah.
See, the basic idea is that we spend a lot of time and energy in litigation, and for that we have to physically go to the court, we have to wait there, and then as you said, tarik pe tarik happens, so you have to keep going there and it is all unproductive. So to reduce that, the government has come up with two three innovative concepts. One, as I said, faceless means now you need not visit the court. Like in case of taxation matters, you need not physically go to the department. You can sit like how we are discussing. The officer would be seated on the other side. You can present your case, you can explain your case. So this will reduce the time of litigation. Most importantly, what happens, it may not be possible that each and every officer will be 100% perfect in all the taxation laws. Nobody is, whether it is the officer or the consultant or the lawyers. So this particular faceless taxation scheme says that when your matter goes to an officer, this matter will not be handled by one single officer. They have made a whole mechanism, a panel where different experts would be seated in that, so that even though one officer is handling your case, but he will get inputs from the expert team. So this will improve the quality of the litigation. And similarly, now more of digitalization is brought into every field, like you will see in medical science, in agriculture, so even in the legal field. Let me inform you, I don't know how many of you all know that in US there is a software where by going to the software, majority of your legal needs are satisfied by the software and it is free. Example, you want to make a partnership deed. In India, we have to go to a lawyer. The lawyer will guide you, he'll draft a partnership deed for you, and he will do all the process, for which there will be a fee. In US, you need not go to a lawyer. You just go to the software will ask you some basic questions, and once you input the details and you press enter, the software will draft the partnership deed as per the relevant laws. So that is, to that extent it is digitalized. So definitely I think Modi's vision is the same, Honorable Prime Minister's vision is the same. He also wants that lesser time and money spent on the unproductive side. Yes.
So yeah, we can expect to reduce turnaround time in the litigation and the court, the legal proceedings procedure, and the cases might get settled more quickly than it is than it is at this current position. Yeah. I have been seeing most of the questions are being asked in the comment
You may
section.
please take the
I
questions
hope,
also.
yeah. Just a second. So, Mr. Tanish Chimpi has asked, insurance maturity proceeds of life insurance policies with a premium over 5 lakh will now be taxed. Won't it be hampering the growth of insurance? So, would you like to answer?
Dear Mr. Tanish, it says that when the premium per annum exceeds 5 lakhs, then only those policies would be taxed. Now, if you go to the statistics, how many of us or people around the country would be having a premium exceeding 5 lakhs in a year? They are only the super rich class. In fact, there are so many amendments in this budget, which is now directly or indirectly taxing the super rich more as compared to common man. In fact, this budget has been tagged by most of the critics also as the most favoring budget for the common man for the first time by the Modi government. Till date, Modi government, as I mentioned at the start, has never given favorable benefits for the common man. This is the first budget which has done. So I doubt that there will be any impact on the insurance sector because see, the super rich were anyways misusing. I should not use this word, but they were taking the benefit of the taxation in such a manner that for high end things like a policy which is having a premium of 5 lakhs plus in a year, you just assume or just calculate what would be the maturity proceeds, which would definitely be in crores. And getting a crores of amount and not paying tax, I think Mr. Tanish would also agree to me that they should pay tax whenever this type of a policy matures. So I'm sure this insurance will not be impacted adversely.
I hope Tanishq has got satisfied with the answer and
And
he
also
has
just
got
adding one thing,
the.
sorry to interrupt, adding
Yeah,
one thing,
that's-
the research of the insurance sector says that till date, the people who have taken insurance in India is less than 50%. So there is a huge scope, even if they focus more on the common man's insurance. And let us say after this amendment, the people who are taking policies having more than 5 lakhs premium, even if they stop doing so, and whatever the business of insurance is reduced, if they focus their energies on targeting the middle class and getting the gap of more than 50% filled in, they will not need such policies of people having more than 5 lakhs premium.
yeah, I guess he has got satisfied with your answer.
My pleasure.
He has, yeah. Moving forward, we have seen. I'll just need to take a moment. I would encourage audience to get more interactive and punch in their questions in the comment section. I would like. I will surely notice it and will ask sir as and when it gets possible. So please keep on commenting and keep on asking your questions. So getting back to our topic. So we have seen that government is increasing disinvestment in
Yes,
the
yes.
public sector units, which are the government-owned sectors basically, and government is morely focused on privatizing the such companies. And so does this disinvestment means that government is getting back to capitalist, getting back, not really getting back, but is turning towards capitalist economy? Is it aiming to convert Indian economy into a capitalist economy, just as USA is functioning at the moment?
Okay.
Do you really think so?
Fine. Personally, if I have to answer your last question first, I don't think so. There is any such thing happening. First, second is my question to everyone, including you, Prachi. Why are we so much negative when it comes to capitalism? Means I don't know how. Why? I think our history or our subjects where we got to learn the different types of economy, I think have portrayed us wrongly. Whereby I think the rich or the people who are driving the country, all our big industrialists, I believe that they are somehow projected in a villain's image. Please understand and appreciate one thing, Prachi, that any country, you talk about the most developed economy, which is US today. US is nothing without the big five giants, that is the Google, the Microsoft, and the your Elon Musk, and all these. Without this, US is nothing. You agree to this, right?
Right.
And And I tell you, see, Prachi, I've been in contact with so many people because I also practice in international taxation. People over there, they actually praise and they actually are obliged to the people like Bill Gates or Elon Musk because they believe that these people are the one who are actually responsible for making their economy world number one. And somehow I don't know why in India we have been so our brains have been so programmed or given such impression that we feel that all these big shots are only doing for their benefit. See, even they are earning well. I don't say they're not earning, but then they are paying the taxes. The more they earn, the more they are taxed. As I said, yes, lakhs of crore rupees into it. They take such a big risk because their project may fail. The lakhs and crore rupees may go to vain risk, and because of their risk today, India has come up to this point. So first, talking about capitalism, firstly, I don't believe this project, this budget is taking up towards capitalism, but yes, it is promoting the development of industries. It is promoting, or it is in fact creating the base so that more and more entrepreneurs can come up, which includes MSMEs, which includes Big Shot, which includes MNCs. And yes, answering one more question you just asked, that sorry, what was your first point in this? I just missed that trail. Uh, yeah, about PSUs. So your question was that whether disinvesting PSU and converting into private, will it lead, means somehow I think the question is asking whether it will be something bad in the long term. Now tell me one thing, without disrespecting any PSU, when we go to any PSU, we always carry an image कि भाई government का है तो इधर तो काम ऐसे ही होने वाला है, right? With due respect to them, you agree to this? Now, we ourselves are carrying a negative image. If the government is privatizing it, first thing what will happen is these PSUs, which are otherwise loss making, will become profit making because they will be run by people whose objective is profit. Second,
Right.
most important thing, we will get good service. So, what is wrong in that? And thirdly, if these PSUs are not adding value to the government exchequer, and by disinvesting them, whatever money the government will get, which now they will be diversifying in various sectors development, like we just discussed, agriculture, tourism, your logistics. So I think you are simply converting your capital asset from category A to category X, where category A was you were running an industry. Now category X is you are converting it into good roads, you are converting into a strong infrastructure, you are converting into a very sound banking system. So anyways, the asset remains with the government, only the form changes. And what goes to the private sector is what I believe is the role of the private sector. Government was never made to run an industry. Government is not having that acumen. With due respect, I say this. They are there to run the country and they are there to develop the infrastructure. So I believe
Right.
this is right, and this has been happening since ages. This is not the first time it is happening. Yeah.
Right. But then again, when we say privatization, it is rightly said that when any entity or when any unit is being privatized, it runs smoothly. But then again, there is one factor as well where the private players are more focused on earning profit. Are more focused on earning more profit or more income rather than the social development, right? So won't it be increasing the won't it lead to increase in prices in the industry, or as in there we might see a hike in the prices or overall inflation rise or something? Are there any chances, or is there any remedy which a government already has, which it might apply in future?
See, there is always a good chance that whenever things go to private hands, as rightly pointed out by you, they are working with the intention of profit, so they will increase the price. But I think we should also appreciate one point, that today we are not living in a monopolistic market. We are more in a competitive market. So even if there are more private players, I think again it is benefiting us. Just a very simple example, you see our telecom prices, our internet data package prices. when the internet and all these facilities were launched, when mobile was launched, it was more costly. Even for receiving incoming call, you had to pay. Now your outgoing is also free. And this is because there are only private players. Now there is no government player left in telecom sector. BSNL is no more a player left, right? So we cannot say that always private would lead to increase in prices. In fact, many times, if the government is able to create two things: one, a good I'll say a good atmosphere for more and more people to come in so that competition is created. Second, a strong regulatory framework whereby, as you rightly pointed out, that there has to be some way how government will keep a check. So yes, we should have strong institutions like SEBI should be strong, regulatory authorities which are there for every business, like for telecom it is TRAI, for stock markets it is SEBI, for your insurance it is IRDA, for real estate it is RERA. So more and more such authorities should be given the power so that if somebody is doing wrong, they should be penalized. So, and I believe that these things are in place because the government understands that if you are privatizing something, you have to ensure that the common public is not adversely affected. So, I don't think that will happen until unless the government is weak or the regulatory bodies are weak, which is not there as on today.
Completely satisfied with your answer, sir. Even my doubt has been cleared now. So we can be assured that so though government is doing this investment, it won't lead to any uncertain future. And there has been a regulatory bodies already set up, which will eventually keep check on all the whatever the misca. What would we say? What the word
If
can be?
something goes wrong, if somebody
Yeah,
does some
in case something
malpractices,
goes
yes,
right, a
we
government
can
can
expect
keep
so.
will
We can
keep
expect
check
so.
on it.
We can expect.
Right, I'm sorry. Yeah. So going forward, as talking about the industries and the companies, there has been this era going on, the startup era. Most of the youngsters are more focused on starting their own company. There is this entrepreneurship of buzz going around in recently. What is are there certain policies or is there any incentives given by government in this budget as in any way it is promoting the startup culture or the entrepreneurship culture which youngsters should look forward to.
Yeah, there is in fact a lot of thrust to the in the Saptarishi, as I mentioned, that seven areas of development which the government is highlighting. They are highlighting one of the Saptarishi as the youth power. So they want to empower the youth, and this they are doing by making two, three important changes. One in the startup segment, another is in the MSME sector. Because see, whenever you or me start up something new, we are going to fall in the MSME sector only. So that is why MSME becomes indirectly a focus or indirectly a connection with the youth and with the startup. Third, as I mentioned, they are also spending a lot on the skill development, which I already mentioned, the Kaushal Vikas Yojana. They are setting up centers of excellence. And most importantly, for the first time, as I mentioned earlier, they are having in their budget allocation for developing internationally required skill set in the youth. Now, adding up all these three things, if I have to give you some very specific things, what they have come up with: one, for startups, the time limit to start new startups which will get income tax benefit has been extended by a year. It was supposed to expire this year. Now it has been extended. Initially, any startup would have a loss under income tax. You can carry forward and set off the loss for a particular time limit. For startups, it was 7 years. Now it has been made 10 years. So that is another boost. For MSME, income tax has made certain provisions whereby if I, as a businessman, do not pay to an MSME sector within time, I will not get the deduction under income tax when I'm computing my business income. So indirectly, I will be making payment or I have to make payment in time. So this will automatically help the MSME sector to get their money in time. Another important thing is that when we talk about banking, as I mentioned earlier, they have reduced the interest cost for startups by 1%. So that will definitely help them a lot. In business head, again, in income tax, for businesses whose turnover is below a particular limit, they are allowed to compute and pay tax in a very simple manner, not like others where they have to go for very technical or detailed computation. Earlier, this was available up to a limit of 2 crore for businesses and 50 lakhs for professionals. Now, both the limits have been increased. Now, if your business turnover is up to 3 crores or if your professional turnover is up to 75 lakhs, you will be able to get the benefit of this simpler taxation scheme even under income tax. So, these are some very specific pinpointed provisions. And as I said, generic provisions are that now government has given special emphasis by making a specific budget allocation on the youth empowerment, the financial sector, and one word which I remember I had mentioned was inclusive development. When you say inclusive, it means all this. So this is how the startups, the MSMEs, and the youth would get benefit, and also by the skill and the Kaushal Vikas Yojana setups. That will help a lot.
Right. So there is a section which a government has created for these youngsters, for the young generation as well, to boost in startups and new entrepreneurship, and increase the inflow of the new companies to set up and new entities to set up. So yeah, there is this segment as well. We can look forward to. Since it's the last 5 minutes for the live session, I would request the audience to punch in their questions, so that we can consider it, and it would get answered quickly. Going forward, getting into the most awaited section of the personal taxes regime, there is this new that we have seen great drastic changes in the taxation as well. I'm sure most of the people most not be might not be knowing the technical terms used in taxation. So I would request you to explain in the layman terms. Can you please?
So you want to know about the tax computation amendments, right?
No, the difference between the old tax regime and the new tax regime, the changes which have been proposed in this year's budget.
Fine. See, the old tax regime, new tax regime is what? Like we all knew 2 years back, there was only one method of computing taxation for the individuals and HF. That is what we call as the slab rate. I'm not talking about the other entities because the major changes over here. And that is what is called as personal taxation. So we are talking only about that. So prior to 2 years, there was only one method of computing the tax, that is up to 2.5 lakhs, the tax is zero. Beyond 2.5 lakhs, for next 2.5 lakhs, the tax rate is 5%. And then so on, the tax rate went to 20 and 30%. So once your total income crossed 10 lakhs, your tax rate was 30%. If your total income crossed 50 lakhs, besides this 30%, you were levied with surcharge, and there was 4% cess. Now, this regime continued up to 2 years prior, which is today called as the old tax regime. Then 2 years before, the budget of 2021 brought in the concept of the new regime, which was optional for the first 2 years. In the current year also it is optional, but there is an interesting change. For the first 2 years, the old regime was the default regime, and if you wanted, then you would switch to the new regime by choice. This year's budget says the new regime is now the default regime, and if you want to switch to the old regime, you'll have to give that as a choice in your returns. So in short, if you don't select that choice, your income would be computed, your tax would be computed by the new regime, which is now become the default regime from this budget. So this is one very important difference between the first 2 years where there were new and old regime and in this year. Now, what is this new regime and what is the difference between the old and new regime? Many people were not happy 2 years back when the new regime was launched because they said that this is going against the development of the country. Why? I'll explain that. And why I don't feel so, I'll also explain that. There was, if I'm not wrong, in the year 2000, if I'm not wrong, it was 2003. There was a Kelkar committee which was formed by the government for uh, helping the government design the new tax and bringing amendment in the taxation regime, aligning with the international requirements, and also for ensuring a smooth and efficient administration of tax. The Kelkar committee recommended that our taxation system, especially the income tax, has a big flaw. What is that flaw? We are giving a lot of deductions, exemptions. This is having few negative impacts. One, some people people are taking undue advantage of this by claiming wrong deductions and wrong exemptions intentionally, because they know that even if they are claiming wrong deduction or exemption, nobody is going to come and catch hold of them, because only 5% of income tax returns are scrutinized by the income tax department. So they know this. So they make a probability calculation as to, if I am taking this risky call, what is the probability of me getting caught? And it is very less, because only 5% returns are scrutinized. So many
Right.
people were taking wrong advantage. Wrong means they are not eligible for the deduction exemption, but by making some fake documentation or doing something like that, they were taking wrong advantage. So this is going against the government and the country. Second, because of giving lot of deductions and exemptions, the government itself is making its own taxation complicated. So if a new person wants to come into business, like for example, you want to start something new, and somebody says, ki, no, maybe your case may be exempt, your case may be taxable, or by doing this you'll get some special benefit, you'll get more confused. So it was
Mm-hmm.
creating a lot of complexity in the law, because you said that this is taxable, but then you'll say except these two things, or this is taxable, but if you do this, you'll get this benefit. So you are yourself creating lot many ifs and buts. So second problem with the exemption and the deduction mechanism was that it is making the law complicated. Now it is complicated for you as a businessman, as a taxpayer, to understand and implement it. Also, it is equally complicated for the government officers to tomorrow come and check and catch hold of the people who are doing wrong in the first case. So it is making the law complicated. And third most important point, it is increasing the tax burden on very few sector, on not sectors, on very few people. Because for them, if there is no deduction exemption, they are shouldering the burden of entire country's taxation. Now, what happens to ensure that you get sufficient revenue from less number of people, you increase the tax rate. The
Mm-hmm.
moment you increase the tax rate, or if you have to keep the tax rate high, even these people may get into the practice of tax evasion. So you yourself
Right.
are creating the grounds by which you are indirectly encouraging the people to do tax evasion by making
Right.
the tax laws complicated, by increasing the tax rates or keeping the tax rates high. Now, Kelkar committee, after doing lot of research of other countries' taxation, especially of the developed countries, said that the simple thing you should do is you should remove all the deductions, exemptions. This will make the tax law simple. This will not have any scope of tax evasion, because if there is no deduction exemption, how you can misuse it? And third, since deduction exemptions are reduced, now more people would come into the tax bracket. So the tax rates, which are 30%, 40%, can be lowered to 5, 6, and 7 and 12%. When the tax rates are low, anybody would feel कि यार 5% के लिए क्यों झमेला करने का, let us pay and buy peace. So even tax evasion incentives is reduced. Now this was a superb report, and this was not in the present government, it was in the previous government. As I gave you the year, if I'm not wrong, it was 2003 only. So it was not in the present government, but the previous government, which made this all analysis, never implemented the report. Now, this government, as we are seeing, I mentioned in the first 7, 8 years of this government, we have seen that it is working on all developmental fronts. It is trying to remove all wrong things which are there in the past, made in the past, and it is trying to make things smoother, easier for everyone. So, in these lines, 2 years back, it decided that let us implement Kelkar committee report, but in a different manner. How in a different manner? Let us give it an option. Now, what is the option, which is the new regime? That otherwise in the old regime, you are given lot many deductions and exemptions. So you compute your income by claiming those deductions, exemptions. So maybe your income is slightly reduced because you have claimed life insurance deduction, mediclaim deduction, few deductions, but then the tax rate is higher. This is the old regime. New regime is
Mm-hmm.
New regime is you don't claim these deductions and exemptions. See, keep in mind the Kelkar committee standards. So don't claim these deductions, exemptions. Be slightly higher because for your insurance. You compute the income at a lower tax rate. This is
Okay. Right. Understood.
now
So, basically,
you're
you continue. Uh, can you
hello.
hear me now? Hello?
Yeah,
I can hear you,
go
sir.
ahead, please.
Clearly. Continue. I'll fade later.
What is-
I can hear you clearly. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now you are clear. Please tell me.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I was saying that so basically government by introducing new tax regime, it is focusing more on a seamless,
Simplified.
confusion-less
Yeah.
taxation system, so that even the middle common man and even the any layman can understand how taxation really works is, and he can not without getting confused, he can understand how is my tax, how is government taking tax on or tax from me, and what are that income sources which are being taxed, and how exactly and how much exactly they are being taxed. So this is what the ultimate motive of government is by introducing the new tax regime, right?
Perfect.
Yeah. So I guess this was pretty much elaborative and more focused on generalized discussion of budget decoding. In case there are any questions in audience, within audience, someone, if anyone wants to ask any specific question, so they are feel free to ask and punch in the comment section. We will be waiting for 2 to 3 minutes more, and
I think
if
you
there
should
aren't
scroll up
any,
because
please.
in between there were few questions. Sorry, Prachi, I think you need to scroll up the chat because there were some questions in between when we were discussing. So maybe those who have punched in some questions earlier, you may be able to see it in the chat. You may just
Yeah,
put it across so
there
that we
is
can
one.
discuss.
Yeah. So there is one question. Skar Kumar Music has asked, how has the problem of unemployment been addressed in this budget? Are there any new implementations for job creation?
Fine. See, again, every time people are talking about numbers that how many number of employment opportunities would be created. Always government also actually be the reality. So let me be very clear that job creation cannot be promised by any government. Whatever is done is always many times the election marketing type of a thing. But yes, if you want to know what is done by this government for job creation or creating more opportunities, one, it is spending a lot on the skill development, as I mentioned. So the more you are skilled, see, I believe there is no problem of unemployment as on today, not a major problem. Yes, few sectors maybe because of COVID and because of recession in European countries there are, but at least in India, majorly I don't find there is a huge problem of unemployment. But there is a problem. One, we are not possessing necessary skill which is required by the industry. Two, depending on what is our skill, the package which is offered, we are not ready to work at that package because we believe that our value is too high. So I think there is a lot of gap between the expectation and reality. So see, because I'm working a lot in industry, and let me tell you, I'm part of various WhatsApp groups of industry of professionals. Every week 2 to 3 people put in requirement ki we need a person for this work, we are ready to pay this much amount. And when I forward it to my different groups where I'm connected, problem is people are not matching the skill set what is required. Then how will they get the pay? Second, whether or not they are matching, their expectation is too high. They believe that they should get 1 lakh per month, which is today not possible everywhere. At least we are blessed that we are staying in a country like India where we are not going through that bad recessionary phase or bad inflationary phase which presently US, UK are facing. So first thing about unemployment thing, I believe there is not a very major problem of unemployment. It is simply the gap between what you are possessing the skill set and what is required by the industry, and that is what has been addressed by this budget by bringing in lot of skill development projects and giving thrust on various types of skill developmental activities like starting a center of excellence, etc. One, two. As I mentioned, whenever the government increases capital expenditure, it directly creates a lot of employment opportunities because government will develop something, it will require people to execute that. Third, when the government is promoting MSME, when the government is promoting corporates, again, what will happen is, see, when one MSME starts, at least 6 to 7% gets employed. One is the owner himself, and then 3, 4 people here and there. And once that business grows, it also starts giving business to other businesses. So this is how, this is not directly giving employment, but yes, if MSME grows, if startup grows, like if I'm not wrong, presently India is having more than 80,000 thriving startups who are actually working. If to be precise, it is 89,000. 89,000 is a very huge number. Now, so many startups are thriving. Thriving means they are still working well. May not be reaching profitability, but they are working. So please
Yeah,
understand, so many families are already having employment. So that is how it is. So these budget changes are the foundation which will lead to a better economic environment and yes, create a lot of job opportunities.
right. So overall we can see there is employment opportunities. It's just that we have to change our perspective and mindset to get into the employment or maybe the
And
entrepreneurship or the startup,
add up
whatever it
more,
is.
add up more skill sets, add up more skill sets.
Yeah, that is as well an
See,
important point to
and
adapt more
I'll
skill
put it
sets and
very
get
clear.
skills.
Despite of being into industry for more than 20 years, I've completed 20 years as a professional. Still, I keep on updating and upgrading myself by taking up new courses, whatever are coming up. Because I believe that I should not be obsolete for the current market. So I'll request everyone that you should also make it a point that in a year, you should have a target of minimum number of hours where you will train yourself, update or upgrade yourself, or maybe both. Yes, Prachi.
Yeah, right. That is why it is very rightly said that learning never ends. You keep on learning all your life, and you can learn at any point of your at any point in your life. So yeah, that is rightly pointed out, sir. And I guess most of the people from our audience might be agreeing to this that we need to work on and hone our skill sets so that we'll get uh, more job opportunities. Not only job opportunities, but also the entrepreneurship capabilities or the leadership capabilities, whatever the industry demands from us. Yeah, so overall, it was a really an informative session for sure. And I personally really got a lot more information and developed a perspective towards how budget needs to be seen or how what this budget included for me or for a common man or for middleman, and what should we foresee as a citizen of an India. So obviously, most budget is from here on we understand that a budget is not an yet another government policy, but really an important economic event which every citizen must keep a check on, because the budget really affects the overall economy, right from the roads, constructions, the job opportunities, but up until the veggies which you buy and consume on everyday basis. So it affects that prices as well. So it is really critical for us to understand what does a budget how important the budget is. So thank you so much for joining in, sir.
My
It
pleasure.
was really wonderful to have you here.
And thank
And
you. Rotaract, it is good to see that people, young people, and organization like Rotaract is taking interest in a technical session. And on a Sunday evening, people are taking interest. They are being part of this program. Thank you, Shruti, for inviting me, and thank you very much, Prachi, for your excellent handling of the session.
thank you so much, sir. My pleasure.
Good. My pleasure.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Um, I hope the best of your day, the whatever the rest of day has left. I hope the best for you. Thank you so much for
Same.
joining in, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Same. Bye.